the question about whether it is easier for writers who are writing out of particular ethnic communities to be published today as opposed to 20 years ago, and kind of reflection on maybe the challenges and opportunities. Just any thoughts on finding an audience and finding a publisher for work that addresses those kinds of issues from identity today, if you had any thoughts on that.
Sure, I'll start quickly. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, now is the time, and I think Jim would have been thrilled to see the number of Asian writers who are publishing today. This was where he and I probably diverged quite a bit, because I think that was extremely important to him to see Asian writers publishing. And for me as a writer, that was something that was very secondary. To me, it was always more about the writing as opposed to the diversity. So we didn't always see eye to eye on that, but I think he would feel very much like his mission has been fulfilled in many ways, and he put a lot of energy into promoting voices that he felt at that time were not being given the attention they deserved.
That is such a hard question. I think the answer is definitely yes, it's easier now, but I think it means other things are also difficult. I think what I wish to see for emerging writers is the freedom to write in any form, in any way they choose, and not to feel that they have to be the emblematic voice. I really do believe in responsibility to the community, but I also think as an artist you have to cut your own path through. And it is the tension between home and belonging and the solitude of the writer. On the other hand, I'll also say that one part of this legacy of nurturing so many writers is that those writers in turn nurtured others. Like Evelyn, you might not remember, but when you were writer in residence at UBC, I came to see you.
Oh, I remember it well. Madeleine was the emerging star, and now I can say I knew her when, and I still remember the depth of our conversation at that point. We were struggling with some similar things about writing honestly about family and culture.
Yes, and we're both of this place. We had both come of age in Vancouver and in these neighborhoods, and the other person who had come through the department was Joy Kugawa, and it was so important for me as a young writer to be able to have those conversations with you and with Joy. It made me feel, and that the thing was, it was a rarity back then.
And we continue to wrestle with some of those issues, being faithful to the writing sometimes feels like betraying people, right? So, these are things that we have wrestled with. And I think one other thing I'm grateful for to Jim, and this is sort of an eccentric thing, and I was telling him this in the hospital. I don't know what was kind of getting through to him. But I think as young women, sometimes being mentored by the people who flocked to us, who wanted to mentor us, often wanted a pound of flesh in return. And Jim was one of those rare men for whom that was didn't even cross his mind. So, looking back now, I'm even more grateful for that. That there was, it was a genuine mentoring. It wasn't clouded by all that other stuff.
And if anything, he told you who to avoid in town. No, it was very helpful. Whether it's easier to get published now, I did have this book that I wanted to get published maybe 10 years ago. No one cared. Still no one really cared recently, until some strange sort of cosmic alignment. Simon Schuster in the U.S. cared, and then it got published. But I was so grateful to Jim because he always believed in me, even with 3 pages. And I was able to. I told him I got the book deal. I wasn't supposed to talk about it, but I told Jim. Right before he passed, so I'm glad he knew that, but he never held the book, but he read it a million times, so there's that. Another strange thing about Jem is it was like he knew me before I knew who I was. He kept, like, I wasn't a filmmaker, but I met him sort of in the middle of the golden age of Korean cinema, and he was obsessed with Korean films, if in case anyone knew. He just gave me so many DVDs, and I was like, okay, yeah. And I watched them, I was like, oh, wow. And then, like, I became a filmmaker, and my next film's a Korean language film. So he had, I don't know what came first, like if he saw that in me, or if he influenced me by getting me to watch all these films, but it's pretty interesting. He wasn't really, he never spoke to me about books. He spoke to me about film. I think he knew that that's how I saw things, a bit more visually. So yeah, I'm really grateful to him that he just really, understood me. And I could call him from anywhere. Like I was living in England for a while, I would just have long conversations with him, and he had with his parrot on his shoulder. Was it a parrot? I think so, yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's like, oh, just hanging out with my parrot. What's going on? Yeah.
I was making a pitch to one of the mainstream TV station and channels, and I said, I got this fantastic idea. I'm going to do a film on Chinese diaspora. And as soon as I got to the word Chinese, the producer immediately said, well, have you tried the Chinese channel? And I said, no, this is an English language film about a universal topic. And deep down my heart, I knew that if I would say Jewish, it would have been taken, oh, great, a Jewish diaspora. But when you say Chinese, you get stereotyped into a channel, you get stereotyped into a language, and eventually you get stereotyped into a ghetto. So I think that's part of the problem is the, content stereotypes that filmmakers face, at least. That was, of course, before the days of Kim's Convenience and other TV shows that getting it to be having more Asian characters and Asian themes.
I think as writers, we're always, as we were saying before, we're always skirting that, the privacy and the truth. And, the way we die isn't the way that we live, and we will always remember him for the way he lived. But it was, he did not deserve that time. And but that happens.